Welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to another edition of the dceu Daily. Remember, you can tag me and follow me on Twitter at MoviesTVMad. Let's begin because it's all starting to look quite worrying if you're a fan of the Snyderverse. Zack Snyder is slipping through Warner Media's fingers, and this is increasingly troubling. So Zack Snyder developing a faithful retelling of King Arthur's legend. I would watch the shit out of that because I know Snyder would say something and do something extremely special. But you know what? I'm a DC fan, and there's something quite triggering when you hear of DC creators and actors talking about other projects. And it's worrying for me. And I'm going to read this article, then I'm going to tell you why it's so imperative that Justice League 2 is green-lit before the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Right. Zack Snyder developing faithful retelling of King Arthur's legend. Director Zack Snyder confirmed he's working on a faithful retelling of the King Arthur legend and hopes to make it at some point in the future. Director Zack Snyder confirmed he's developing a retelling of the King Arthur legend. I'm working on something, but we'll see, Snyder said in an interview with Minutemen. I've been thinking about some kind of retelling, like a real sort of faithful retelling of that Arthurian mythology concept. We'll see. Maybe that will come at some point. So nothing definite there. King Arthur is one of the most famous characters in medieval, historical and romantic literature, dating as far back as the 5th and 6th centuries. The legend has been reimagined to everything from novels to comic books, television shows, films, video games and operas over the centuries. Snyder referenced one of the better-known movies inspired by the Arthurian mythology in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, in which a young Bruce Wayne's parents are murdered shortly after leaving a theatre showing John Borman's 1981 fantasy adventure Excalibur. More recent film adaptations include Antoine Fuqua's 2004 King Arthur, starring Clive Owen as Arthur and Keira Knightley as Guinevere. In 2017, Warner Bros. Tried to launch a franchise with Guy Ritchie's King Arthur Legend of the Sword, featuring Charlie Hunnam as a young Arthur and Jude Law as his duplicitous uncle Vortigern. However, Ritchie's King Arthur movie fared poorly both critically and financially, with Hunnam blaming its failure on factors like miscasting, saying there was a piece of miscasting that ended up crippling the centre storyline. It's actually not in the film anymore. Well, Charlie, maybe your casting was miscasting, hey? Snyder's next film debut is his R-rated 4-hour cut of Justice League, which arrives on HBO Max March the 18th. A new trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League was recently unveiled, providing an early look at some of the characters who didn't appear in the movie's theatrical cut, like Granny Goodness. It also featured the first footage of Jared Leto's reprising his role as the Joker from Suicide Squad as part of the sequence that builds on the nightmare scene from Batman vs. Superman. Later this year, Snyder will also release Army of the Dead, an original zombie action horror film he co-wrote and directed for Netflix. David Bautista stars in the movie as the leader of a group of mercenaries who try to loot an abandoned Las Vegas casino in the wake of the city being overrun by zombies. So, by the way, David Bautista has been begging for years to be in The Walking Dead, to play even a zombie, and they said, sorry, David, you're too big. I thought that was kind of funny. And a shame, actually, because David's such a passionate guy. His loyalty to James Gunn when James Gunn was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was very good. I love loyalty like that, like the loyalty that Momoa and Fisher showed Zack Snyder. I respect that. That gives you an impression that these people in Hollywood, some of them at least, haven't got dark souls and are actually good, fair-minded people. Anyway, I'm not really interested in King Arthur. I mean, I've read a lot of King Arthur books. I love the story, and as I say, I would watch the shit out of that. But I'm not telling you about this, and I'm not talking about this to go into King fucking Arthur. The point is, right, Zack Snyder's Justice League is starting to translate before anyone's watched it to the mainstream audience. They're starting to say, oh my God, this guy was driven off a project, and they lied. They said that he left because of his daughter's death. Oh my God. And oh my God, we're seeing these trailers now. We're seeing this marketing. We got Granny Goodness. We got Darkseid. Jesus Christ, how could they do that? That's not us from the movement saying that. That's Normie saying that. The trailer has got around 10 million views on all platforms altogether. That's amazing. That is a figure that should tell Jason Kilar and Sarnoff, but especially John Stankey over at AT&T, that let's tie this guy down now. Let's start green lighting the Batfleck miniseries or movie over on HBO Max. A Deathstroke movie, a Jared Leto written and directed Joker movie by Zack Snyder, Justice League 2, everything. They should tie him down now. Do you remember in 2019, in November, when we had that big event, and it trended over a million times, didn't it? And I came on after that saying, that's it, the Snyder Cut's going to happen. And all you guys go, hold your horses, it's not going to happen. It took a long time for us to hear anything. And then in March, before the announcement, we heard rumours. And even then, I couldn't believe it, even though I was quite sure it was going to happen. Because it's too good to be true. We've been fighting for it for so long. I think the same kind of stands for this. Because after all, Warner Media and AT&T are companies with board members. They have to discuss things. There's not one person that can say, right, Snyder's getting more. It's not as simple as that. But the numbers speak for themselves. Warner Media's projections now are telling them this is going to be a massive hit. It doesn't matter what the chatter's going to be, positive or negative. They're going to make a lot of money from Snyder. All of a sudden, more people than before can see that Snyder is a talented, visionary storyteller, writer, director. Tie him down. He's already at Netflix, right? And where's that King Arthur story going to go? Well, I suppose it depends who owns the rights to King Arthur. I don't think it's just one studio, by the way. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to get the Merlin series on BBC. So it looks like he could even take it to Netflix, and Netflix will pay whoever has, whoever whose story it is, because obviously, historically, is it a true story, King Arthur and all that? Or is it a fable? I'm not sure. But anyway, right, we've got to tie this guy down now to DC. He wants to do more, DC, right? And I want to be absolutely clear. I have mentioned this on Twitter, and I can't remember if I've mentioned this on the channel before. You've got to stop looking at WB Pictures as the kingmakers. WB Pictures were running things during the Time Warner era. That's not the point now. That's not the way it works. Who's running everything? Who makes the big decisions? John Stankey at AT&T. John Stankey at AT&T was the one who went over to Toby Emmerich and said, call Zack up. This is going to happen. No. We don't care what you think. I'm in charge. I'm the big boss man. I'm the big boss man at AT&T. AT&T own Warner Media. AT&T own your fucking butts. Go and order the Snyder Cut and give him everything he fucking wants. You guys should never... And if you think Stankey just ordered the Snyder Cut, Stankey already got Sarnoff to investigate what was going on. Something that I told you exclusively as soon as Ann Sarnoff was appointed chief chair at Warner Media. I told you that. Go back to the videos. I'm sorry I don't have albums on my YouTube thing, and it's not in order, but you'll find it somewhere, right? And if you remember, I told you that. Again, a lot of you didn't believe me, but there was a thorough, in-depth investigation even before Ray Fisher was calling things out. And Sarnoff investigated and took it straight back to Stankey. Stankey was not happy with because it's like when you buy a house and there's a fucking leak in the roof. And Stankey's thinking, Jesus Christ, look at the toxicity at WB Pictures. Oh my God, we've got to investigate this. People have to go. Now, it's interesting because Ann Sarnoff at Warner Media has given Toby Emmerich even more power. Now, I know from the outside looking in, that's confusing, but it's all about giving someone a piece of rope and making it bigger. That's all it's about. The future, and I can't remember if I mentioned this on yesterday's edition of the DCEU Daily, but this is what I think is going to happen to WB Pictures. It's just going to dissolve into Warner Media in the end. That's it, because they hold no power anymore. The power is coming from Stankey and Sarnoff and Kilar. And they're the kingmakers, and they're all on the same page. But Stankey wants more Snyder, but they have to act quickly. They know now, because of the numbers the trailer did, thanks to us mostly, but we didn't get that trailer. on our own to get to 10 million. That's the normies as well. The normies are interested. CNN did a whole fucking article about the Snyder Cut. Jesus Christ. You people have got to understand what's going on here. Snyder went from being a small-time director with a small CV, because Zack's CV is smaller than other directors, mainstream directors, high-profile directors of his age. And, you know, he's done adverts, he's done Watchmen, he's done that zombie flick, he's doing the one on Netflix, he's done the DC movies. So he doesn't have a 20, 30, 40 movie slate. So he's there to see what kind of filmmaker he is. But because he has a visionary, unique take, people don't like him. The problem is with Snyder, he's done a lot of adaptations, or he's worked on pre-existing characters, and people are always going to have a huge opinion on you when you do that. And because he's a unique visionary storyteller, writer-director, it can be problematic. He's different. He's a bit like me. When I used to watch soaps as a kid, Coronation Street, Emmerdale, the Aussie ones growing up, I always went to the soaps with the darker characters, the darker storylines, with the violence and the brutality. I liked EastEnders as a younger man because it was more brutal and realistic. And this is why I love Snyder. Even though I grew up on Donner's Superman and Reeves' Superman, and I still go back to that, it doesn't mean I want to see more of that. Why? Because I've got the Blu-rays. I can see that whenever I want. This is a modern-day retelling of these DC characters in our 9/11 COVID world today, kind of. Not that we want superheroes to be fighting COVID. What I'm saying to you is it's these superheroes that Snyder's given us, these DC characters, are in our reality of paranoia, and it works. I've already mentioned on this channel before what happened, the horrible thing that happened at the White House, or wherever it was. I forgot what it was called, when the rioters went in and did what they did. Very similar to what Lex Luthor did in BVS, when he gets the disabled guy, manipulates him, plants a bomb in his wheelchair. It's very similar. So Snyder has a beat on what's going on in the world today and injecting that in his superheroes movie, in his superhero movies, but it works so effectively. Why would you want to let someone like that go? George Lucas, after he made Star Wars, they wanted him to keep on making more Star Wars, didn't they? Because he was bringing them money. People are starting to see that Snyder is not problematic anymore. Snyder is now, mainly because of us and because we put the Snyder Cut and the Snyderverse out there, people are starting to say, well, hang on a minute. He's doing something different, but he does tell compelling stories. And one of the myths about Snyder, I want to blow out there as well, is that he's style over substance. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Snyder puts style in his movies and beautiful art, but there's so much substance in his fucking storytelling. You're just not paying attention. I was watching a Screen Rant video. By the way, I'm a fan of Screen Rant. They have a lot of journalists over there that have really been pushing for the Snyder Cut, that really love Zack. And you know what? If you ever watch my channel, any of the journalists over at Screen Rant, I respect you for what you're doing. And this is why I read mostly your articles. So go and show some love to Screen Rant. And they really have been very supportive for Zack Snyder and his DC universe. But Zack is all style and all substance. He's both. He's the perfect storyteller. He's the perfect filmmaker because he gives you style and he gives you substance. He's never given you anything that's style over substance. How can you tell me in Man of Steel, when Lara is refusing to put baby Kal-El in the pod, that there's no substance to that? And then Jor-El has to tell her, listen, this planet is going, whether you like it or not. We have to save our son and we have to keep our race going. How can you tell me there's no substance? How can you tell me there's no substance in the storytelling of Zod and his arc in Man of Steel? All right, mostly that was Goyer and Nolan doing that, and he was the director, right? So let's go over to BVS. How can you say that BVS is style over substance? It doesn't make sense to me. It's all style and all substance. Just think about it. Think about how he has Bruce Wayne seeing the Battle of Metropolis with his point of view when he's holding the little girl and he sees Superman and Zod. And you see the look in Affleck's face. That didn't come automatically. Snyder, right, got Affleck to look so angry and so bitter towards Superman up there. And the whole thing he does with Batman and Bruce Wayne throughout the movie, slowly breaking down. And you can see that his hatred isn't all for Superman, but Luthor is manipulating that. How is that style over substance? That's all substance. Lois Lane feels bad for what happened in the desert, right? She's trying to prove Superman's innocence. What is it what Swanwick says to her? You're trying to ease your conscience? And how is that how is that style over substance? Perry White and Clark Kent having the iconic kind of to and fro from the comic books. Clark saying, we got to do the right thing. What Batman's doing is wrong. And then Perry's saying to him, this is not 1938, blah, 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 blah. And he keeps on, he keeps on putting Clark down. He underestimates Clark. How is that? Style over substance. Again, that's all substance. How is Superman, his whole arc, when he says, this is my world, you are my world. At that moment, he embraces the planet Earth and he's willing to sacrifice himself for Lois and humanity. How is that style over fucking substance? Are you watching the same thing? Some idiot yesterday said, Marvel are crossing boundaries. The MCU are crossing boundaries, right? While DC are re-editing a bad movie. Re-editing a bad movie. Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut is 4 hours long. How is that a re-edit of a bad movie? It's his movie. You just don't get it or you don't want to understand. So Snyder is all style and all substance. There's no other filmmaker that gives you both. It's just that you don't get his point of view. You don't get his eye. And if you took a minute to see Snyder's movies, you'd see a difference from the other movies being made. Because the other movies being made actually are style over substance. Most of the MCU movies are style over substance. The Spider-Man films, both Spider-Man films, we've seen the brilliant Tom Holland in, are all style over substance. That Spider-Man doesn't have much substance. What are you talking about, right? Now, there's some MCU movies where it's all substance and style as well. But to say Zack Snyder hasn't got any substance in his storytelling, just because he happens to see VFX as an art form and he gives us beautiful images, the emotion and the storytelling and the characterizations are still there. You're just ignoring them, right? This is what movie journalism has become. Or that Goldberg character from Collider, talking about the IMAX box kind of way we're seeing Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut trailers, and I think that's the way we're going to see it on HBO Max. And he's saying, why would you cut stuff off? Nothing's been cut off. That's the way it has to be shown because that's how it was shot. You idiot. You're not losing anything. Now, would I rather see it in a big screen rather than that little box? Of course. I'd rather see it in the movie theatre. I'd rather see it in widescreen. But I think you'd be losing, right? Anyone who knows anything about making this type of movie this way knows if you had it in widescreen or in a big frame, you would be losing. The way Zack's doing it, he's giving you everything. It's just because I'm not used to watching a film in a little box like that. But does it put me off? No. Does it make me less excited for Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut? No. These are people who are trying to find negative things to say. And then Goldberg says, I forgot the Snyder cult. Don't like people saying anything against the film they haven't even seen. That's not the point. The point you made was substandard, you blundering idiot. You people, some of you people suffer from a very serious condition. Spoiled child, spoiled brat syndrome. You can give it, but you can't take constructive criticism back. That's not toxicity. You just can't handle it. You want your mouths to do that while we go, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. You've got the blue tick and we're nothing. So this whole video started really, and my aim on today's dceu Daily was actually to talk about the worrying situation that we could lose Zack Snyder from DC. What I would say to Jason Keeler and Sarnoff, but especially John Stankey, as I've explained, he's the one who's got his eye on the prize. He's not just a board member. He's not just a blind leader. He's the one who ordered the Snyder Cut. He is very important. Now, I don't think he's available on social media, which is a shame. If someone can find out about that, that would be great. But yeah, this is what I'm trying to say, that they must greenlight Justice League 2 and the Batman thing and the Joker series and the Deathstroke stuff immediately. Immediately. Do not wait for after Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut to hit HBO Max. This would be wrong. This would show a lack of faith. You've seen the numbers for the trailers. You've seen the fandom, and you've seen other normies coming to the party as well. What else do you want? It's time to announce it, or you could lose. No, we could lose Zack Snyder from DC. Come on, let's do this. This is not just about what we want. It's about Warner Media making the right decision for the future of DC and your company. It's as simple as that. Now, I want to say something. I noticed on Vero, Zach wishing a happy birthday to a very, very prominent member of the Snyderverse community, Mick D, a character who's blocked me, and I can't even remember what I did. I'm sure it's all my fault. Happy birthday to Mick, by the way. No hard feelings, but I do think, as someone who was grown up, who wasn't shown as much love as, say, my younger brother, I don't think you should treat your children any differently than one another. And I think Zach can do what he wants, but I think when other members of the Snyderverse fandom see that and they think, well, I'm not going to get a happy birthday, how can he wish everyone a happy birthday, right? And it kind of brings in a bit of elitism, doesn't it? And one of the things about the Snyderverse family is that we fought elitism. What happened to Zach and the way he was forced off Justice League was about elitism. And we fought and we broke that elitism. So this is what I'm going to do. So I was a bit triggered by that. But as I say, no hard feelings to Zach. I love the guy. I stand with him as a father, as a husband, as a visionary filmmaker, of course. Absolutely. But that's triggered me a little bit, because why should Mick D get a birthday message? Is he more important than the rest of us? But that's how Zach felt. So that's entirely up to him, right? So what I'm going to do is, if you tell me it's your birthday, I will give you a birthday shout out. So you're all welcome to get one. All you have to do is let me know on one of my social media platforms. So comment down below, like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you for more DCEU Daily tomorrow here on Big Mouth. See you again soon.